my schedule has just been madness. Well, it was a organized crime case. So I indicted 24 defendants on 87 felony indictments. Yeah, and so organized check fraud case. So as they've been turning themselves in, it's been like, oh, so and so's in jail. So and so, don't you want to go interview him? Shouldn't you go talk to this guy? Shouldn't you? And I'm like, holy smokes.
Okay, I guess we can start. Good morning. Good morning. My name is Kay Summers. I'm with the VaCCRA Program Committee, and this morning we have Detective Joe Wood, who from the Henrico County Police Division, the Economic Crimes Unit, and he's going to speak about certain targets that are happening on all users, and particularly seniors, that they would be scams and swindles and other kinds of malware. So I'm going to turn it over to Detective Joe Wood right now.
Oh, shucks. Good morning. Is that coming over the audio system okay? No? I'll just have to throw it right to the back then, huh? Well, good morning. I'll just say it's a delight and a privilege to be here with you this morning. Do I have to speak directly? Okay. Doesn't have much of a condenser on it. All right, I will breathe directly into someone else's microphone. Good morning. It is an honor and a privilege and a delight to be here with you. I hope I didn't keep you waiting. I'm only a minute or two late, which by my neurotic and dysfunctional standards is like smack on time. So I am really happy to be here with you this morning. I think you'll enjoy the program. My colleague, Matt Monticelli, and I put this together maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and we've been relentlessly flogging it all over Henrico County ever since. If I have any repeat victims in the room, I'm sorry. Sometimes people come back for more, and I'm like, how did I fail you the first time that you didn't feel like you got the full experience? I have been with the division now for 14 years. Most of that time, almost all of that time, I've had the privilege of serving in investigations. So I have a lot of information kind of rolling around. Some of it may be even useful to you. Just call out questions as you have them. That's fine. Let's try to keep it on track. I do have kind of a full program, but there should be plenty of time for questions and answers, especially at the end of the program. Now, I will say, if you find me charming and erudite and very physically attractive, then for the letters, good, young, well, my small stature shaves off like 10 years, but I've got a few gray hairs creeping in. Then for the letter of compliment to Chief English, my name is spelled W-O-O-D. Now, if you think this presentation was hot garbage and the chief should be embarrassed to have sent me before you, then for the complaint file, it's spelled M-O-N-T-I-C-E-L-L-I, right there on the board. All right, let's do it. What's my range? What's my range on my clicker? Apparently not great. I have to get a bigger battery pack. Stand by. There we go. All right, so the purpose of this presentation is to arm you with knowledge. That seems pretty straightforward. I want to arm you with the knowledge that you need to avoid falling prey to a scam, a swindle, an okey-doke, a hucklebuck, whatever you want to call it, okay? I want to keep the money that you've earned in your pockets where you can spend it as you please, and not to finance the illicit activities of some transnational organized crime syndicate. I think we're in agreement on that. Are we not? Outstanding. This is the interactive portion of the presentation. All right. Now, every scam that you will ever encounter relies on what to be effective? It relies on your cooperation. That's kind of the hallmark of a scam, so you're not wrong, but it wasn't exactly what I was driving at. Well, let me pick on you, sir. Good morning. What is your name, sir? Grayson. Mr. Grayson, my name is Joe. It's nice to meet you, Grayson. Why do you cooperate with a scammer? And why do you think that he's going to do or whatever he says? And why do you take him at face value on his promises? Okay, all right, so the answer was you cooperate because you think he's going to do what he says he's going to do because he's made some representation to you to that effect. And why do we believe him? I love that answer. Put it in your back pocket. Put it in your back pocket. Her answer was because we're honest. We trust him because we're honest, and that is fundamentally true. But because we don't know any better, would you agree? Because we are ultimately naive to the wool that is being pulled over our eyes. So if I can show you what the wool looks like ahead of time this morning, when the scammer tries to pull it over your eyes, it won't be the first time you've ever encountered it. You with me on that? Okay. I want this presentation to be the vaccine that teaches your immune system what the virus looks like. Are you with me? And maybe we can attack it together. Okie dokie. Now, I will let you know there is a quick quiz at the end. No big deal. No big deal, but if you fail it, you got to wash the cars in the division's fleet. It's not that hard. The county has saved a lot of money on our carpool contract this way. All right. We can also do some motivational PT if we need to. I haven't had a jog in about 5 years. I could probably use one. Okay. Who are we? There are, this is slightly out of date. There's now 6 of us. There could be 16, and we would still be completely overworked. Most of us have in our current case assignment well over 100 cases. I'm pretty lackadaisical about going and clearing out old ones. I've got like 240 cases assigned to me. If that sounds like Lucy in the chocolate factory, that's because it is. The conveyor belt just comes in faster than I can put the candies in the box. That's all there is to it. Our supervision is pretty straightforward. We work a lot with our computer forensics detectives because you basically can't commit a fraud these days without touching the internet. You kind of just can't. So all fraud crimes are computer fraud crimes until proven otherwise. To that point, our unit is probably unique in the division and almost as unique in law enforcement in that our cases are assumed to have a connection to an overseas group, kind of until proven otherwise. That's how common the transnational fraud is. We have to work as best we can with our state and federal partners. Our mileage sometimes varies on how effectively we can reach across jurisdictions to apprehend these criminal suspects. I'm not going to belabor that, but yeah, we participate in a variety of state and federal, both law enforcement and public-private partnerships. If you would like me to discuss further how all that works, I'm happy to, but I kind of want to share extra time for questions because they're always so good. Maybe I can improve the range. All right, I'm going to point my receiver toward me. Maybe that'll improve my clicker range. Now, what are the most common scams that affect our citizens here in Henrico County? Typically, we kind of think of them as like buckets, different buckets of fraud. They're usually recognizable patterns and trends, and so I've kind of categorized them here for you on the screen. I don't know if you can see it all the way in the back, but we'll discuss them individually. Now, who are my homeowners in the room? Just making sure. Okay. We don't have any visitors, no like bring a friend day or anything. Okay, you all live here full time, is that correct? All right, and the community handles maintenance and things of that nature. Am I correct in believing that? Okay, I'm going to just kind of fast forward right on through construction fraud because I imagine that part of, one of the perks of living here is you don't have to fix your own shingles. Right, okay, cool. So I'm going to blow right through that. If you want me to pump the brakes and talk about construction fraud, we'll do it, but this just kind of gives me more time to savor the sound of my own voice and talk about something else. All right, let's do it. Typically, the main scams that we run into are these imposter scams, and I'm going to talk about that at some length. All right. I'll back up one slide. So when we're talking about construction fraud scams, here at the end of that discussion, I have a slide on how to kind of suss out whether you're dealing with somebody who's up to no good. I'll just talk very briefly about that because some of you may hire folks to do work for you outside the context of strictly construction work. And so I'll just bring your attention to the Department of Professional and Occupational Regulations. Every person who is licensed to perform a trade in the Commonwealth, and that can be barbers, roofers, estheticians, plumbers, electrical contractors. there is an odds-on chance, if you are licensed to perform a skilled trade in the Commonwealth, that you're licensed by the Department of Professional and Occupational Regulations. So if you're going to hire somebody to do a job for you, whatever that job may be, even if they're just your beautician, you can check the status of their state license online through the publicly available website there, dpor.virginia.gov. Now, if you have occasion to hire someone in a healthcare-related profession, say you want a part-time health aide or something along those lines, those folks are licensed by the Virginia Department of Health Professions. So if you navigate your web browser to the Virginia Department of Health Professions website, and if you're stuck on that, any librarian in Henrico County would be thrilled to help you accomplish that task. Then you can do a license lookup for any healthcare worker. So any nurse or health aide or anyone like that that you want to hire to do a job for you, you can check the status of their license. And any complaints that have been filed against that person's state license are publicly available online, as is the disposition of any hearing into the matter. Are you with me? All right. So if I say I hired a nurse and she picked my pocket and stole my checks and started writing bad checks, then that state hearing, the transcript of that hearing, will be publicly available on the Department of Health Professions website. Everybody good with that? Okay. Now, law enforcement adjacent profession folks like locksmiths or private security or law enforcement, we're all licensed by the Department of Criminal Justice Services. All the same rules apply there. So if you're like, I don't know, throwing a kegger in your backyard and you want some private security, then, check on your private security folks through the Department of Criminal Justice Services. Now, one more point on that. The same thing is applicable with the State Corporation Commission. Who in here are my small business owners, current or retired? Any small business folks? Got at least one. So you're familiar with the State Corporation Commission because you had to file to register your business name, and that way nobody else transacted business in the Commonwealth using your business name, right? Okay, cool. So I want to bring this to your attention. If you're doing any kind of business with a person who's trading under a company name or an LLC name, you can investigate the existence of their LLC via the clerk's office with the State Corporation Commission. Now, I'll warn you, this doesn't tell you whether or not they are legitimate. What was your company name, ma'am, out of curiosity? You raised your hand. I'm going to pick on you. Communication Options. So this wouldn't tell me if Communication Options was legitimate. It would only tell me if it exists. Everybody with me? So if I'm trading as Joe Wood Scams a Lot LLC, I might register a business enterprise to do my nefarious actions. Why might I do that? What do we call a business that serves to disguise criminal activity? A front. Outstanding. 1 gold star, sir, for you in the back with the scarf and the jacket. Yes, we call that a business front. So if I'm an enterprising crook, then I'll just write the clerk a check for $100 and I'll register some nonsense business entity, and now I have a little bit of a fig leaf of legitimacy, right? So the SEC's website doesn't tell you if they are legitimate, it merely tells you that they exist. Now, if I tell you that I'm Joe Wood Skilled Roofing LLC, and you go and you check and it doesn't exist, what does that tell you? Run, don't walk the other way, because not only am I a crook, I'm a lousy crook, because I couldn't even be bothered to write the clerk a check for $100 to register a fake company. Everybody with me? And that runs the gamut. Any business that you may do business with, if they are not registered through the SEC, run, don't walk the other way, because it is a guaranteed scam. Everybody with me? Outstanding. And that's any company that does business in the Commonwealth. Has to be registered through the SEC, okay? So if I tell you that I'm you get these very, very fanciful stories that the scammers will weave. Some of you may have gotten these scam calls or have a loved one who's gotten these scam calls. They can weave these elaborate fictions, can't they? And sometimes they'll say, well, I'm with such and such company. Oh, neat, okay, let me just check real quick. And the overseas folks, they will not ever write the check for $100. They're just not gonna. So you can put a stop to that real quick. Okay, questions on how to suss out shady business people. I just wanted to slip that in real quick, even though we're not talking about construction fraud. Okay, so let's talk about scams. That's what you wanted me to come in today to talk about, I imagine. So let's stop beating around the bush and do it. How do scammers reach their intended victims? What are some means of interacting with intended victims? Yeah, email. Give me some more. Telephone, outstanding. Give me some more. Text messages, yes. Keep going. Old-fashioned U.S. mail, outstanding. Keep going. What? Door to door. Door to door. Door knockers, yes. Continue. Out of ideas? Okay. How about just good old-fashioned affinity-based relationships? Maybe I go to your church. Maybe I'm a friend of a friend. Maybe you don't know me that well. Maybe we lost contact. Maybe we had a romantic relationship in high school 45 years ago. And or for most of you, maybe like 30 years ago, right? Right. How? What was that? 60 years ago? Well, you know, hats off to you. May we all be so lucky, right? And so maybe we lost contact, and now maybe you're recently widowed, and maybe I want to re-engage and say, you know, I've always loved you. You laugh. You laugh. Happens every day, right? Happens every day. So those are just some of the ways that our scammers will ingratiate themselves with would-be victims. To wit, you all. You with me? So if they can talk to you, they can try to scam you. And this is a tale as old as time. From the time that the first caveman got hucklebucked out of dinner by the first cave swindler, human nature hasn't really changed all that much. Would you agree? I mean, we're all fundamentally the same. We're all fundamentally the same. How much of my DNA is in common with any of yours? 99.999 and some more, right? We're all fundamentally the same animals, and we all carry the same vulnerabilities around with us. The Spanish prisoner, anybody heard of those? It's like the kind of the forerunner of the Nigerian prince, the one that kind of like was the genesis of the Nigerian prince. I'm a political prisoner in a castle in Spain. I'm very wealthy, and I've buried my gold, doubloons out behind the castle. If only some American would spring me some bail money, I'd be happy to share my vast fortune with them, right? Give me a break, right? And that dates back to the 1800s. That was literally Pony Express stuff. Pony Express stuff. So these are tales as old as time. The scammers keep coming back to them because they work. Because they work. Yes, sir. Okay, he said, how about I'm your grandson and I'm in jail? Hold that thought. Don't be stealing my thunder. Knock it off. All right, here we go. So, what do we see? Oh, I stole my own thunder. Why do scams work? Why does it work? Okay, we talked about how do they come after you. Why does it work? Who are my like PhD psychologists in the room who can explain this way better than I can? Do I have any practicing, like any academics or anybody who studied human psychology more than I have? I'm just some dude, right? I'm just like happy to be here. These are my personal observations. If you have greater academic knowledge than I do, share it with the group. But scams rely on what fundamentally? Do people reason themselves into scams? No, of course not. Do you sit down across the dinner table with your husband or your wife or your children and say, hey, I've really thought long and hard about this. I think this Ponzi scheme is a great investment opportunity. Do we do that? No. What are we relying on as a decision-making process when we get taken in by swindlers? Emotion. Emotion, emotion, emotion. Typically, they are what? I've got them right there on the board for you. Call them out. Fear is the number one. Fear is the number one. And a close second is greed. If I can get you fearful, I can manipulate your behavior pretty much any way I want to, can't I? If you don't you lived it, right? If you don't believe me, just go back to the history of the 20th century. At the number of popular movements that preyed on people's fears to horrifying outcomes. You with me? Horrifying outcomes. Shortly after fear is greed. If I can get you greedy, I can make you dumb, can't I? Greed is dumb. Don't get greedy. What about if you're lonely, if you need human affection, if you're bereaved? You're also extremely vulnerable to manipulation, aren't you? And the scammers are going to push all of those buttons. Sometimes they'll push them all at the same time in the same scam. What about obedience to authority? Who in here are my rule followers? Most of you, because you've lived this long. If you were not a rule follower, you might be dead, right? If you like to drive your car at 90 miles an hour and while you're not wearing your seatbelt, that shaves years off your life expectancy. Would you agree? So here we all are. We've made it this far, probably because we try to do the right thing. Well, if you're rule followers, if you're obedient to authority, you are very vulnerable to scams. Because who are the scammers going to pretend to be? Someone in a position of authority. And if you're in the habit of just deferring to authority, then you may be very vulnerable. So I want you to kind of say, do I need to do that? Why are they asking me to do this? Is it in my best interest? Is it morally reasonable? And is it in my best interest? And then, of course, the number one largest vulnerability to be taken in by a scammer is what? Single greatest vulnerability you can possess. Being alone. Living alone without your spouse. That is the number one. I'm not going to ask anybody to raise your hands if you're in that category. I'm sorry if you've had that experience. I haven't been there yet, but my time is coming, right? One way or another, we're all going to experience it. Okay, unless we go first, I suppose. So, if you don't go first, you're going to have to deal with it, and it makes you very vulnerable. Would you agree? Okay. Now, there's been some interesting social science work. I just have one here at the bottom of the slide. There's been a bunch of social science work that shows that knowledge is highly protective of scams. If I can inform you, I can arm you. What do we see? We see all these imposter scams, IRS scams and the jury duty stuff, all of that. I'm going to pretend to be someone I am not so that I can use your obedience to authority or use your fear to take advantage of you and manipulate you and alter or change your thought process. Lottery scams, that's just greed. Distress scam, what this gentleman was driving at, we're going to talk about all of these. So shout out questions as you have them. Who in here has gotten a scam call from somebody pretending to work for the IRS? Many of you. Some of you may have received these calls and not realized what it was. These calls typically come from overseas. We've seen them from Jamaica. We've seen them from some other places in the Caribbean. We've seen a few of them from the Indian subcontinent. They're going to be nasty and rude and hateful on the phone. Why do you think that may be? The gentleman said because they're pretending to be the IRS. Who in here has a positive preconception about the IRS? Who has a positive bias in favor of the IRS? Am I the only one? Some of you were public sector employees. Yes, sir. Outstanding. This gentleman's father worked for the IRS. Who are my public sector employees? Put your hands up. You got paid with other people's what? Taxes. So I love the IRS. I think it's great. The only thing better than the IRS is the Virginia Department of Taxation. Because I would like to retire. So please, pay your taxes on time and in full. Thank you. Sincerely yours, Joe Wood. Okay? So I am one of the few people in the room that has like a very positive attitude about taxation. I think it's great. Taxation is the price we pay for civilization, right? I'm cool with it. But most people are like, nah, I could do without it. And so they play on our negative stereotype of the IRS, and they will play up that rude and hateful thing. They'll curse at you over the phone. What IRS agent is going to do that? Come on. But it's not a rational process, is it? It's an emotional process. So here's the pitch. Good afternoon, sir, ma'am. This is John Schmuckentelli with the IRS. You owe $10 billion in back taxes. We've got a SWAT team parked around the corner. They got the ram on. They're ready to go. Your door's coming down. We sent you 5 letters in the mail. We called you 3 times. Heck, we door knocked 2 or 3 times, and you blew us off. why wouldn't you just pick up the phone? I'm so sad that it's come to this, but here we are. We've got an arrest warrant for you. We're going to drag you out by your ankles. We're going to triple tase you and spear tackle you and throw you in zip ties, but we're not unreasonable. We're going to give you one more chance. Don't you just want to pay your fine and take care of things that way? What's it going to be? Choose. Yeah, pound sand, right? Come on and get me. You know, and as you rack the shotgun in the phone. No, most people don't do that, do they? Most people don't want to go down in a blaze of glory. You've made it this far, right? So most people get a little bit ill at ease with this. They start to feel what emotion? Fear of what specifically? Negative consequences. Being arrested. Fear of negative consequences, right? Now, what happens in your brain? All right, any physicians in the room or anybody? Again, if you have more academic knowledge than I do, shout it out. What happens in your brain as you start to experience a strong emotional response? Say it like you mean it. Yeah, which is epinephrine. We call that in the medical community epinephrine. You experience a stress response, and this is completely involuntary. Your brain starts to excrete a number of hormones that cause other hormones to be excreted, such as your adrenal glands on top of your kidneys. Adrenaline and cortisol are the two main offenders. What happens to your frontal lobe when it gets flooded with adrenaline? Who are my risk takers in the room? Got to be one. Somebody has defied the odds and lived to a ripe old age despite their bungee jumping and skydiving ways. Come on, who are you? No, but not one risk taker. Not one. Yes! What's your favorite adrenaline hobby? What do you do to get your kicks for adrenaline? Heck yeah. So this guy raced motocross. Everybody know what that is? It's like the jumping on the dirt bikes and stuff and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. How did you feel when you were riding on that motorcycle? Yeah. Let's assume that you did not have a close encounter with gravity and you're eating it, right? You're on the course and you're just eating those. Isn't it great? It's the best thing. Why is it so great? Before I blew my knee out, I used to go hella skiing. I mean, I'm the police. I like to drive fast and shoot guns at pieces of paper and stuff like that, right? It's kind of my thing. That's why I said I like to put small holes in big pieces of paper. That's it, right? Okay, so what stimulates us about that activity? Which turn off our frontal lobe. We're in our limbic system. That's where we go to party, isn't it? We go to our limbic system to party. We have a little bit of wine or whatever we like to do. We do some adrenaline activities, and we turn off our frontal lobe. We say, hey, you usually are in the driver's seat, but you're boring, right? You're a stick in the mud. You want to worry about consequences. You want to worry about planning for the future, and don't do that. Something bad could happen. We want to party. Let's go into the limbic system. And now, right, we're having this breed and feed response, right? We're gonna get out of that frontal lobe. So once you're in that stress response, once you're in that fear or anger or greed or lust or whatever emotion you are experiencing, how easy is it to plan for the future and to think clearly? Not very easy. I want you to think of a time in your life when you may have been under the influence of a chemical intoxicant. Don't raise your hand. I'm not going to ask what that chemical intoxicant was. Depending on when you were born and when you were a teenager, one might have been the drug of choice versus another. We'll just assume it was alcohol, right? We'll just assume it was ethanol. I want you to compare and contrast that experience in your mind with a time when you were under an extreme emotional stress or an extremely strong emotional reaction. What's the difference, really? Is there one? Not much. Not much. So the point I'm trying to make, and I'm belaboring this point a lot, A, because I love the sound of my own voice, and B, because I think it's very important. If I can wind up your emotions, you're basically drunk, is the point I'm trying to make. If I can wind you up hard enough and twist your emotions, I've basically turned you into walking around drunk because your frontal lobe isn't in the driver's seat anymore. Is everybody with me? You're in your limbic system. So even though this is not a rational pitch, even though nothing about this is rational, it still works because I've emotionally incapacitated my victim by causing them to experience fear. Everybody with me? So how do we inoculate ourselves against that? Knowledge, because now we're not fearful. We know better. And now we don't feel that fear. We say, you're not from the IRS. The IRS isn't going to call me and hassle me on the phone. Click. Problem solved. You with me? What's even better than hanging up the phone? Outstanding. Why is it so hard not to answer the phone? This gentleman's got his phone in his hand right now. I've failed him as a presenter. I have not commanded his attention. Why is it so hard not to pick up the phone? Well, everyone likes to talk to people. What? You might miss something, and it might be important. Okay. Who in this room, I don't, some of you may raise your hand. I'm going to argue with you. I'll call you out in front of everybody. Who in here's parents threw mail away without reading it? Your parents threw their mail away without reading it? Some of it. I didn't ask about your children. I asked about your parents. Most people of that generation, the generation of your parents' age, religiously opened their mail. Why? It might be important because they did their personal and professional business using postal mail because that was the technology that was available when they were growing up. You with me? I mean, technically, yes. Okay, Alexander Graham Bell invented telephones. Yes, but you take my meaning. Okay, that's been around for over 100 years. Now, folks of your generation, how did you conduct your personal and professional business? When you were 16 and you had a hot date, you picked up the phone and you called them, didn't you? And ever since, your primary preferred means of communication has been what? Voice telephone calls, because that's what you did when you were 16. This gentleman says, I've got 2 heads and I'm full of baloney. What is your preferred means of communication? Text message. Okay, so some of you are getting with the times. But the point I'm trying to make is those are hard habits to break. Do you still feel like the pull of that ringer if your phone's ringing? Okay, so this gentleman has mastered his habits. Who in here still feels the pull of that ringer if the phone is calling? Many, if not most of you. So I commend you on overcoming that lifetime of habit, but it's normal. I'm saying it's normal for you all. How about people my age? What's my big vulnerability? What do I have a hard time walking away from? No, I'm not young enough. I'm older than you think I am. I'm older than you think I am. Email, thank you. Email's been around for about 50 years. Email's been around for about 50 years. And when I was a kid, if I was late on my term paper, how did I whine to my professor and beg for more time? I sent an email, right? How did I apply for jobs? Same. You with me? So even to this day, even knowing it's spam, I have a hard time hitting that delete key because it might be important. And on we go, right? Text message, social media, on and on. Whatever the technology that you grew up with is, that's how the scammers will meet you. They'll meet you where you live. And for folks in your demographic, they figure it's voice calls. So they're going to do this kind of nonsense over the phone because they're gambling that you're going to pick it up. It's as simple as that. All right. So what are we going to do? We're just either not going to answer the phone because we've been able to break those habits, or we're going to hang up because we know that the IRS is not going to call and hassle us and shake us down for money over the phone. They're not. They're not going to do it. It's not going to happen. All right? If you have a caller ID on your phone, don't necessarily trust it. I can go into the whys and the wherefores and how the technology works, but it's not automatically true. It's not authenticated. So I just want you to be aware. Yes, ma'am. Sure. Yeah, that's okay. So the question was, usually on these scam calls, there's an audible pause. You answer the phone, there's a delay, and then you get the voice on the other end. They're relying on computer dialers. So any Simpsons fans in the room, like the episode where Homer gets a robo-dialer, that's like, that episode is 30 years old. So that technology has been around a long time, random number dialers. And these days it's all software-based. And so the criminals are using these software-based random number dialers to dial thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of phones, many of which will never be answered. But the ones that do connect, the software then routes to an agent. You with me? It's just like a call center. I mean, they're literally call centers. They're just criminal call centers instead of legitimate ones. So that's that audible delay, is the automated software connecting you to the human being. Yeah, I mean, that's a dead giveaway. It's a dead giveaway. But even better than that is letting it go to voicemail or using your answering machine. So if you have an answering machine, let it do its job for you. These scams rely on the emotional manipulation of the human voice, and they don't work very well over a recording. So if I leave you a voice message and it says, hey, this is Jim Bob McGillicuddy with the IRS, you owe $1 million, blah, blah, I'm going to come arrest you, you're just going to delete it right away, aren't you? It's just not going to have the same effect. And most of the scammers know this, and they don't even bother leaving messages 9 times out of 10, because it's hopeless. So let it go to voicemail. Speaking personally, I've never had a family crisis or emergency that 60 seconds would have really changed the outcome. So let it go to, if it's important, they'll leave you a message, listen to the message, and call them back, is my advice to you on those. Any questions about the IRS type stuff? This is gonna create a theme. What they're gonna ask you to do, they're gonna ask you to do one of two things. If you take the bait and you fall for it, the instructions are gonna be as follows. Go down to the Kroger and buy gift cards and read me the number on the back of the card. Oh, you don't want to do that? Fine. Go down to your local bank branch, take out $25,000 in cash, go over to the 7-Eleven, and put that cash in the cryptocurrency ATM. Because that's how Uncle Sam wants to get paid today. You've all been paying your taxes with cryptocurrency your entire lives, right? Bitcoin is the IRS's preferred means of payment. You didn't realize this? Oh, in fact, that's not true, of course, is it? All of these novel means of payment are a dead giveaway that you're dealing with somebody who is not who they're claiming to be. Everybody with me? So if you hear the word gift card, you're going to do what? Okay. If you hear the word Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, you're going to, thank you. All right, that's going to be a recurring theme for the next 20 minutes. All right, so once you've kind of recognized this is the pattern, and they all kind of flow from here. Who in here has gotten a call and says, hey, you've missed jury duty? Many of you should be raising your hands because these things came through like wildfire over the last 12 months or so. This was a neat one to me because I geek out on this kind of stuff. Anybody know where these jury duty scams come from, by and large? They're domestic to the U.S., which is almost, it's not unique to these scams, but it's kind of unique. These are domestic to the United States. Any takers want to hazard a guess where they're coming from geographically? Who said that in the back? Speak up, speak up. Oh, you're using your resources. Well, I commend you on paying attention, yes. There for a second, I thought I had somebody who was like the ultimate AP student, like Gold Star, and you are because you used your resources on your open book test. So what's your name, ma'am? And passed the open book test. Yes, they're coming from the penal system in the state of Georgia, by and large. So what has happened is, in about 2014, some enterprising gangsters who were doing like 20 to life on murder and drug distribution and stuff, they've got nothing but time on their hands, and so they sat around and they dreamed this thing up. They said, well, how can we get some money to buy honey buns and, ramen noodles and cocaine? And so, well, don't lie. Can you get drugs in prison? Can you get drugs in prison? Yeah, they're just more expensive. And so they wanted some honey buns and ramen noodles and cocaine, and they said, how can we get our hands on that kind of stuff? Well, we can scam people, and they hatched this plot. And so it's been, from that point forward, it's been kind of known in law enforcement circles as the Autry State Prison Scam, because that's where it got going. So, if any of you are super geeks like I am, you can investigate on your own time the Autry State Prison Scheme. DOJ indicted like 150 people, half of whom were prison guards. I regret to inform you there is corruption in the penal system. I'm sorry. And so, yeah, that's what they were doing. And to this day, so the problem is once a scam is developed, once the scheme has been hatched, any idiot can put it into motion once they learn the nuts and bolts of it. So once a criminal group figures these things out, they proliferate. They proliferate through the criminal underworld. So it's here to stay now. We had a crew that generated, I don't know, about 100 Henrico County victims over the last year. We've traced them to a prison in South Carolina. There are some FBI task force detectives working on that now. They think that this one group is responsible for like maybe 5,000 to 10,000 individual offenses, worth maybe as much as $20 million. So, and that's one group in one prison. Anyway, the pitch is almost identical to the IRS. Hey, you missed jury duty. The fun one about this one is they've got nothing but time. So they data mine the communities that they're going to call. So they'll get smuggled in cell phones. They'll search for like, hey, high-income zip codes. Okay, what is the area code associated with those zip codes? Oh, Henrico County's got a lot of affluent neighborhoods. Let's pick on them. And then they'll just look up every public official in Henrico County. And they'll name drop them all to you to try to build that credibility. So they'll say, sir, ma'am, you know, this is Deputy Sergeant Garrison with the Henrico County Sheriff's Office. You missed jury duty. Judge Harris is PO'd. He's issued a bench warrant for your arrest on capias. You know, you need to come in and get arraigned. There'll be a preliminary hearing. And they'll talk the talk, right? Because these are lifers in the criminal justice system. And so they're going to tell you every step in the process. Well, there'll be an arraignment and then a preliminary hearing and then you'll have a bond set and blah, blah, blah. And they're going to just tell you everything that's going to happen. And they can be very persuasive because they will name drop so many names to you. Uh-oh. We're doing it live demo. Okay. Obviously, if you miss jury duty, the only consequence is what? Is anybody going to call you and start shaking you down for gift cards and Bitcoin? If they do, please report it to law enforcement because we have public corruption afoot. Would you agree? So even if they really are Deputy Sergeant Garrison with Henrico County Sheriff's Office, he's still shaking you down for Bitcoin and like gift cards. So he's a crook regardless of whether he is who he says he is. So please don't take the bait. Hang up the phone. All right, lottery scam. We can get through this one pretty quick. If you didn't play the lottery, you didn't... Hey, you didn't win. Yeah. If you didn't play the lottery, you didn't win. I mean, I can read the whole slide to you if I need to, but that's pretty much it. If you didn't buy the magazines, you didn't win the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. They're bankrupt, so even if you did buy the magazines, you didn't win the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. Everybody with me? Everybody knows Publishers Clearinghouse no longer is a thing that exists, like it's defunct, right? So even if you did buy the magazines, I regret to inform you, you are not a winner of the sweepstakes. Okay. These will always be advance fee scams. And what that means is they're going to say, you got to pay your taxes up front. You got to pay your taxes so we can send you your winnings. Please remit payment to James McCrae, 101 East Elm Street, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Because that's how the tax man wants to get paid today. He wants you to put cash in a shoebox and mail it to some guy in Albuquerque. So please don't fall for it, please. But it's not rational. Would you agree? We've talked about this. What emotion are you feeling? Greed, and greed makes you stupid. Correct. Okay. All right, so this, gentleman, what's your name? Bell. Mr. Bell alluded to this one. Bill. Apparently I need to put my bell tones in. Bill alluded to this earlier. Who is familiar with the injury scam or the grandma scam? Yeah, put your hands up. Okay, good. All right, so who in here has gotten one of these calls? I will not ask who fell for it. They are highly effective If you haven't fallen for it, I dare say you know someone who has. These are an absolute menace, and they're extremely effective. So here's how this scam works. You're going to get a call. They can come in at any time of the day, and it's going to go something like this. Grandma, Grandma. Jimmy? Yeah, Grandma, it's me, Jimmy. My voice sounds weird because the airbag hit me in the throat, and I've got really bad laryngitis. I can't talk. Here's my lawyer. And so, like, scammer number 2 comes on the line, right? And he goes, hello, this is Pierre L'Enfant, Jimmy's lawyer. Jimmy was on vacation in Paris. Jimmy had too much wine. Jimmy crashed his car into a busload of nuns. Half of the nuns were pregnant, and now they are all dead. Jimmy has been charged with 20 counts of manslaughter. Here's the bondsman. Now scammer number 3 is going to come on the line. Yeah, this is Bob with Bob's Bail Bondsman Paris LLC. Jimmy's bond has been set at $50,000 American dollars. Now, the court system in Paris is really backed up. His trial is not until July 32nd. And if you don't pay the bond by tomorrow at close of business, Jimmy's going to be held until trial. So that's like 6 months from now. So you might want to go ahead and send it. Now, because it's overseas, the only form of payment we can accept is a Swift wire. We can't take anything else. So if you want to pay his bond, you're going to have to go down to the bank and you're going to have to wire over the money. Here's the wire instructions. And then they'll put Jimmy back on to close, right? You always got to have the closer come in. So now Jimmy's going to come back on to close the deal. Grandma, I'm so ashamed. I've ruined my life. Don't tell Mom and Dad you're the only one I can trust. I mean, I'm like making myself tear up just thinking about it, right? It's an absolutely cruel scam, and it is so effective. So effective. You get 2 or 3 guys who can kind of act and read from a script, and you get them on the phone, you can wind up just about anybody with that pitch, right? Who in here has a loved one for whom you do just about anything? If you don't, go make some friends. Yes, ma'am. Excellent question. So what's your name, ma'am? Sally asks a frequent question. How will artificial intelligence or generative computer models affect this? Can they manipulate Jimmy's voice? I mean, yeah, but no, right? That's some James Bond stuff. Is it real? Sure, it's real. But are you like the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, or like are you an elected official where you have this enormous target on your back where people are going to use real resources to come after you? Are you the target of a nation-state level attack? Like, how high profile are you? Because I'm sorry to report, I don't think anybody in this room is going to warrant that much effort. Like, I don't need to use artificial intelligence. What can I use? NI, natural intelligence, and I'm just going to hack what's between your ears. Why make it harder than it needs to be? Social engineering, right? An old-fashioned con job is so effective. Why bring all the James Bond stuff into it? And usually they don't. I've had victims swear to me up and down, it sounded just like my grandson. And I'm like, nah, it probably didn't. What probably happened was you were under the influence of an extreme emotional attack, and your brain made it sound like your grandson because you believed it. Anybody in here ever hallucinated? You don't have to raise your hand. I have. I had an honest-to-goodness hallucination. I was working midnights one night. I was so tired. I was just done. I was done for. I was exhausted. And I'm sitting next to my partner, and we're just like watching a stoplight, waiting for 6 o'clock in the morning to roll around. And I see a car pull up to the gas pump, put the hose in, drive off, snap the hose, gas is flying everywhere. I'm like, holy smokes, Jackie! And I'm like, I go over to look for the pump and make sure it's not going to catch on fire. I'm like, where's the hose? So I walk back over, And Jack's like, what are you doing, dude? And I'm like, you didn't see that car drive off just now? He's like, mm-mm. Okay, I'm just going to mark out now, Jack. I'm going home. I mean, it didn't happen. I saw some stuff that was not there. So the point I'm trying to make to you, your natural intelligence is so, I mean, making you hear and see things that are not real is such a trivial exercise for your brain that you do it every night while you're sleeping. It's just not hard for your brain to make up stuff. So I don't buy the AI stuff. I just don't. Good question. I just don't buy it. They don't need to. All right, so the average loss in these ones is maybe like $50,000 to $100,000, which by my standards is pretty low, and by your standards is probably shocking how high it is. So the average loss in these grandma scams is between $50,000 and $100,000. Hang up the phone, call your loved one back directly, and have that awkward conversation. Ring, ring. Hello, Jimmy? Yeah, oh, hi, Grandma. Shut up, Jimmy. Did you crash your car into a busload of pregnant nuns last night? Grandma, you feeling okay? Answer the question. No. Okay, great. Love you. Call me. Right? I mean, have that if that's what it takes to put your mind at ease. Better that than having the conversation. Hey, I just wired $100,000 to DBS Bank Singapore. I think maybe I need a conservator on my finances. You with me? Those are your two choices when you get down to it. Those are your two choices. What's up? Yeah, I mean, hey, bite the bullet, Jimmy, right? Like, own up to it. I've been carrying your weight your whole life. I'm tired of it. All right. Anybody in here looking for a part-time job? Let's move on. All right. This is the one. I'm going to belabor this if you'll indulge me. I got like 8 minutes left. I'm going to belabor this one because this is the one that's going to cost you whatever you have. Now, if you were very fortunate in your life and you've got $10 million, this scam will cost you $10 million. If you were less fortunate and you have $10,000, this scam will cost you $10,000. You with me? Whatever you have, that is what you will lose. Okay. I'm not going to ask you if this applies to you. I'm not going to make you raise your hands, but I just want you to think. Think amongst yourselves. Who in here has ever felt an amorous attraction toward another human being? You know who you are. All right. But of course, the problem is that we move through life, we lose people along the way, don't we? And I mean, the longer you live, the more that you have to deal with that, and it's absolutely ruinous to most people. It's just ruinous, and there's no nice way to put it. But those feelings of loneliness don't go away just because you get older. In fact, oftentimes they get worse, don't they? Who in here has ever thought to themselves, I used to be lonely yesterday, but today I feel much better? Is that how it works? That's the wound that time doesn't heal, isn't it? And it sucks. It just is awful. Now, before you know it, that situation may lead you to finding yourself on farmersonly.com or Christian Mingle or Plenty of Fish or Tinder or Grindr. I don't want to know. You're all adults. The point I'm trying to make is just because there are plenty of fish in the sea, there are plenty of sharks too. Everybody with me? Please do not assume that the person with whom you are communicating has honest intent. Stranger danger. Okay? All right. Usually, these romance scams are going to come at you one of two ways. They're usually these days going to be internet-based. It's going to be Facebook. It's going to be some dating website. It's going to be some random text message. Oh, isn't that silly? I didn't mean to text you, sorry. And then the conversation just continues. They don't stop after that. Or it's going to be some long-lost person from your past. It might be an old-fashioned in-person swindler, okay? The online swindlers or the in-person swindler, they're usually going to rely on a technique called a love bomb. Anybody ever heard of a love bomb? They're going to come at you with an unreasonable amount of affection in a very short period of time, like way over the top, way more than seems reasonable. But if you're super lonely and you've been desperate for human affection, that's like water in the desert, and you don't notice the warning sign. You're just getting your needs fulfilled. And they lay all that love on you, and things escalate really quickly. And while they're lovey-doveying you to death, they're going to be hitting you up nickel and dime, just easing you into the scam. Hey, you know, my car broke down. I sure could use $500 to get it fixed. Do you think you could send me that money? And on we go. My auntie's in the hospital. It's going to be 10 grand. You know, my house burned down. Whatever. And it's just going to escalate and escalate and escalate. Anybody familiar with the psychological phenomenon that once you say yes one time, it's easier to continue saying yes? Anybody familiar with that? Abusers do this. Domestic abusers do this. Once you give a person a little bit of power, they can keep taking and taking and taking and taking. And it's psychologically, every time you say yes, it gets harder to say no the next time. Anybody familiar with that phenomenon? Okay. They will exploit that to the hilt. They're going to make a lot of very small requests, and it's just going to get bigger over time. Once they've bled the victim dry, 10,000, 100,000, 200,000, a million, whatever they got, they're going to get it. Then they're going to switch the script, and they're going to hit them with the too good to be true investment opportunity. It's going to be like the Nigerian prince kind of thing, or the Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme kind of thing. And they're going to say, hey, you know, my uncle's an oil man in Ghana. The government is pretty corrupt. They're going to get their hands on my uncle's money. If only we had a squeaky clean American bank account we could deposit that money into, then we could invest in this Alberta oil venture, and we could both be independently wealthy, and we could retire together just like we've always dreamed. And so on Tuesday, 250,000 American dollars show up in your bank account, Swift wire transfer. Is that real money? Sure it is. It's a Swift wire transfer. Your banker's going to do a suspicious activity report, and they might close your account, but it's real money. And so you freak out, you call your lover, and you're like, what should I do with this? They're going to say, well, I'm so sorry to have taken it, you know, to relied on you all these years. You keep 10,000, you send the other 240 to the investment opportunity. Here's the wiring instructions. So you send that 240,000 to the bank account they told you to send it to. What have you just engaged in? Wire fraud specifically, say it like you mean it, money laundering, transnational organized crime, money laundering. Where'd that money come from? Grandma scams, of course. So they sent you the grandma scam money. You just sent it to victim number 2. They just sent it to victim number 3. They just sent it to victim number 4, 5, 6, and 7. And before you know it, it's made its way all the way around the world and back to Nigeria. And you were a link in a chain of a highly sophisticated organized crime conspiracy. It's awful. It's ruinous. So there at the bottom of my slide, there was a lady in Richmond City who fell into that just a year and a half ago. She moved something like $1.5 million for these scammers. And she was federally indicted, and she pled guilty because she had like 7 chances to stop, and she was so deep in the scam, she just wouldn't stop. Just wouldn't stop. All right, I'm gonna be self-indulgent. I've got a slide on here. Any old-fashioned PBS fans? Carl Sagan, Cosmos from the 70s, right? He wrote a book about thinking rationally. As he was dying of cancer, this was important to him. He was a scientist, so the foreword of his book, I think, is directly relevant. One of the saddest lessons of history is this. If we've been bamboozled long enough, we tend to reject any evidence of the bamboozle. We're no longer interested in finding out the truth. The bamboozle has captured us. It's simply too painful to acknowledge, even to ourselves, that we've been taken. Once you give a charlatan power over you, you almost never get it back. If you fall for a romance scam, I cannot save you. You won't let me. I mean that literally. I've had people tell me to get off their lawns. I've had people slam doors in my face. I went with my partner and helped a man close his bank account because he was engaging in this activity. He walked across the street to the bank, opened a new account that day, and continued. He lost his house, and he's like now indigent. He has no assets whatsoever. The fantasy is preferable to the reality, and I want you to put yourselves in the shoes of a romance scam victim. Not only do you have to admit to yourself that you've been taken in by a scammer and you've lost everything, you also have to come to terms with the fact that nobody loves you and you're going to die alone. It was all a lie. Your grand romance that you've been living for the last 6 months, a year, 2 years, however long this has been going on, was fake. It was 5 Nigerians in a basement reading from a script on a computer screen. How easy do you think it is to accept that? Almost impossible. It's like cult deprogramming, if you've ever heard that. So I would just urge you to take care of your friends, check on each other. Once you get taken in by a romance scammer, that's the end of the line. I can't save you at that point. All right, that's pretty grim. Sorry. But that's what we're up against. Okay, phantom hackers. This is just somebody who's going to pretend to be somebody they're not. They're going to tell you that your computer's been hacked or your bank account's been compromised. You got to move your money to safeguard your assets because the FDIC stopped existing somewhere along the lines. So we got to get that money out of the bank. You can't be trusted. They're going to tell you to take your money out of the bank, and they're going to tell you to put it into another account for safekeeping. What is that other account? Theirs. And they're going to ask you to use Bitcoin at the Bitcoin ATM. Don't do it. Don't do it. Never, 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 never give anybody access to your computer or your smartphone. Some of you have probably used remote tech support, right? And it says, hey, do you want to grant your IT guy access? And then your mouse starts moving like magic on the screen. Okay, that's a legitimate thing if you're dealing with a legitimate IT repair person. But the criminals can use the same software, and they'll use it to install arbitrary code on your computer and take over your assets. Never, 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 never click yes. Just unplug your computer and restart it. Yes, sir.
How about those that somehow can shut down your computer, and then there's a little sign on the screen that says, don't turn off your computer, call me on the phone.
Yeah, don't turn off your computer because it will short circuit my scam. Don't do that. Yeah, obviously, unplug it. Yank that thing out of the wall, right? If you got a cell phone, turn it off. Smartphones suck. I hate smartphones. I'm still flipping my phone because you can't take the battery out of most smartphones, can you? They're like hardwired in. So I don't know, turn it off somehow, wrap it up in aluminum foil, and take it back to the store. But yeah, you've got to disconnect that device. Do not follow their instructions under any circumstances. All right, how do they want to get paid? We've already talked about it: cash, Bitcoin, and gift cards. If you hear any of those three words, run, don't walk the other way. Do not pay in cash, do not pay with credit cards, do not pay with gift cards, and do not pay with Bitcoin. Don't do it. Just don't. This is what one of those cryptocurrency ATMs looks like. I call them larceny boxes. Please do not put your money in the larceny box. All right? You've made it this far in life having never purchased cryptocurrency. Why start now? Don't do it. Just don't do it. We can talk about that more if you want, but I don't want to take all your time. Skimmers, nobody's ever lost their house because they got skimmed. We put these pictures in here because they're cool and they're James Bondy and it's very high-tech stuff. This is a search warrant I did. He's got his little card reader right there on his table. But nobody ever lost their house because their credit card got skimmed. It's mostly an inconvenience. As you can see here, the numbers just keep going up, up, up. By far and away, the largest demographic is folks who are 60 and better. This is what we're up against. This is an organized crime town that the Chinese triads built in Myanmar. For those of you who don't know, the country of Burma, modern-day Myanmar, had a military coup some years ago. There's currently a shooting civil war where the populace has risen in revolt against the tyrannical government, so there's no rule of law there. The Chinese triads have built entire towns, tens of thousands of people. These are human trafficking victims, and they're being forced at gunpoint to engage in scams. It's shocking to the conscience. That's what we're up against. They're coming from all over the world, and everyone is at risk. Yes, ma'am.
In the New York Times today, there's an article on the Myanmar.
Oh, there's an article on KK Park?
Yes, there is.
Well, the New York Times is only about 4 years late to the party, but better late than never. Thank you to the paper of record for keeping us all informed. But yeah, this has been going down for about 4 or 5 years. About 4 or 5 years. This is not the only place in the world. There may be as many as 30,000 people living in this godforsaken hellhole of a miserable dungeon. It's not the only one in the world by any stretch of the imagination. Who are my victims? Everyone. I had to add financial advisor to the list a few weeks ago. So if you're a human being, you got a target on your back. One of my favorite victims was this gentleman here. He's a retired obstetric surgeon. He had a stroke and lost the use of one arm, but he was otherwise fine. And he joked with me that the hospital had no use for a one-armed surgeon. I mean, this guy was sharp as a tack, brilliant human being, even smarter than me, if you can believe it. And, they took him for quite a ride. If you can imagine it, that's what the scammers are going to get you to do. Liquidate all of your assets, sell your property, lie to your spouses, your friends, and your family. Bankruptcy is a possibility, and yes, even suicide is a possibility. Gift cards, cash, and Bitcoin, folks, those are the ultimate red flags. Run, don't walk the other way. Interrogate anybody who says they're a loved one in distress. Do not grant remote access to your computer. If law enforcement, quotes, is shaking you down, then you're dealing with either an imposter or a corrupt law enforcement officer. Don't follow their instructions. Act now or else, that sense of urgency, too good to be true. This was not a how-to course. I do not want to see you as a suspect or a victim in the future. We doze, but we don't close. Who has questions for me? Yes, ma'am, in the back. Let me hustle up to you. Hold on, let me hustle up to you with the mic. I'm not the real police. I move a little slower.
What about the fake telephone numbers or company names that are right there and you get that rather than the real thing? No, on your internet. Well, I don't know.
All right, so, okay. So the question is, what about fake numbers and fake company names? So I'm gonna freewheel with the answer. You tell me if it's what addresses your point. The first thing is caller ID. Caller ID is not authenticated by the phone company. I can put a piece of software on my phone that lies about my outgoing phone number, and I can make the phone company think I'm dialing you from the White House switchboard. Modern smartphones try to do you a favor by consulting the phone book, and so on your caller ID it will say White House switchboard, whether or not I am. Don't trust caller ID. It's not authenticated. The second thing is don't trust Google results automatically. Google has search advertisements. I can pay Google as an advertisement to say, hey, if anybody in this zip code Googles Amazon customer service number, I want you to display my result at the top. And it's going to be my telephone number. And then any unsuspecting person who Googles Amazon.com telephone number and just goes on whatever is on the top they're going to be calling me, not Amazon. And the scammers do that relentlessly. Relentlessly. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Do not trust the Google search ad results. Just go to Amazon.com or wherever you're trying to go, because Google will allow people to pay them to manipulate the search results.
I have one question. I'm Sally Wood, president
Hi, Sally.
of
I'm Joe
VaCCRA.
Wood. Nice
yes,
to meet
we're
you.
probably related.
Probably.
Recently, I've gotten 2 invitations to a party that's going to be fantastic, and it's a punch party. One is from somebody's name I vaguely remembered, couldn't identify. Other is a resident here. So be aware of that.
What is a punch party?
Like tea party, maybe.
Okay.
What's a punch party? Oh, Punch Bowl. That's right. Yes. Well, I wouldn't take it as legitimate because neither of these people were. Company is okay. Okay, y'all
Sure.
got
Yeah.
that?
Use otherwise legitimate services to mask your illegitimate actions.
And recently, an issue has come up about being able to freeze your phone SIM card.
Oh. Well, now you guys are getting into the advanced placement. How much time have we got? Because I'm already over. All right. So a SIM swap attack is a high-end identity theft attack. That's where I either have a complicit accomplice who works for the phone company, or I've bribed somebody who works for the phone company, or they've hired some minimum wage worker who doesn't ask very many questions, and I'm just a good con man. And I stroll into the Verizon store or the T-Mobile store or what have you, and I say, hey, what's your name, sir? I'm Fred. My phone's not working right. Could I please get a new SIM card? And they'll just present a fake ID with Fred's information on it in my face. And the either unsuspecting or corrupt phone employee will give me a SIM card. So what a SIM card is the subscriber identity mobile card. It's a little chip. Some of them are electronic these days, but there are still some that are physical. It's a little computer chip that plugs into your smart device and identifies that handset as belonging to your phone number on the wireless or the cellular network. You with me? So it tells the cell tower which handset should ring when I call that number. So if I have Fred's SIM card from the phone company because I just bribed or conned the phone store employee to give it to me, I can plug it into my handset, And now when somebody calls or texts Fred, whose device is going to ring? Mine.
Right.
And I can use that to perform really sophisticated identity takeover stuff that's frankly, it's usually outside the purview of most street-level criminals, but the higher-end guys know how to do it. Basically, they're gonna try to hijack Fred's two-factor authentication. So when you go to your bank account, if I hit, hey, reset my password, what's the bank gonna do? They're gonna send me a email sometimes, but usually it's a text, isn't it, these days? Well, guess what? I'm getting Fred's text messages. So now I can reset Fred's online banking password because the bank thinks I'm Fred. And we can go deeper than that, but I don't want to get into like the how-to side of it, but that's what it is. So if you notice a sudden and unexplained interruption in your cell phone service, go ahead and follow up with the phone company sooner rather than later, because it's conceivable, although unlikely, that you've been the victim of a SIM swap attack. And those can be ruinous because they can do such a good job impersonating you that they can make the bank think it's really you through a variety of means, and the bank may be reluctant to give you your money back because they think, well, yeah, of course you went to Albuquerque and withdrew $100,000 in cash. Of course it was you. And you're like, no, actually, I've never been to that bank.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was, I'm sorry for the long answer, but that was a high-end question.
There was an article in the Richmond paper about this, right? It was this weekend?
Oh, it's a real thing. It's a
Yeah.
real thing. It just requires more sophistication than most street-level morons have.
Yes. Well,
what it comes down to.
this has been, yes, ma'am.
Yes, please report them. Some of them are an absolute lost cause, and I regret to inform you. Like, it's so demoralizing to work some of these cases. I have very limited authority to go to, like, Lagos, Nigeria, and start snatching people up off the street, right? I'm not Batman. So, sorry, my ability to solve these crimes and make an arrest and get a prosecution through court can be limited. But if I don't know that it happened, then my success rate is 0. So please do report them. Sometimes it's U.S.-based defendants, like all these SIM swaps and stuff like that, these ID thefts, they have to have somebody in the United States to accomplish those. So if there is a U.S.-based person, yeah, we're off to the races, and sometimes we can solve them. So please report the cases.
And one thing, too many of us think this is all within protected fraud, and the bank's going to cover it. I'd say there are fewer protected fraud instances than not.
Yes, so the reason I talk almost exclusively about scams, and I didn't even mention credit card theft. Credit card theft, you have a contractual agreement with the bank when you have your cardholder agreement that if your credit card is defrauded, the bank has to pay you back. Everyone is aware of that? Nod your heads like this. If I scam you, if I persuade you that I am someone I am not, and I ask you nicely to give me your money and you do so, is the bank going to give you your money back? No, they will not. And you have lost it. It's gone forever. Sorry. But that's why the whole presentation focused on scams, because they're ruinous and they're non-refundable.
Well, Cousin Wood, we've run over, but you could stay here and answer some individual questions.
Yeah, I'm happy to do so. If folks have more questions, come on up.
And I also, while I have an opportunity, want to thank Bob Staples and then Pat Sullivan, both of who are stepping down from their role. Pat as vice president and Bob as secretary. And then I want to thank heartily Kay Summers, who's been in charge of this year's 2025-26 until the summertime program. And she has it all set up for the year. And it's a lot of work, and I applaud you. I did that because I knew she would hate it so much. So thank you so much. You were very good and very informative. And we are continue with this theme about what you do to protect yourself besides being alert. So throughout the year, this is coming back, and it is getting more sophisticated. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.